to do with faith. Strictly faith. Now, faith is the certainty of things hoped for, a proof of things not seen. For by it the people of old gained approval. By faith we understand that the world has been created by the word of God, so that what is seen has not been made of things that are visible. By faith Abel offered to God a better sacrifice than Cain, through which he was attested to be righteous, God testifying about his gifts. And through faith, though he is dead, he still speaks. By faith Enoch was taken up so that he would not see death. And he was not found because God took him up. And before he was taken up, he was attested to have been pleasing to God. And without faith, it is impossible to please him. For the one who comes to God must believe that he exists, and that he proves to be one who rewards those who seek him. Okay. Faith. I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Think about that. If you didn't have faith, would you be coming up in here today? If you didn't believe in what God said, if you didn't have faith, would you be praying to God? Would you be talking to God without faith? No, you wouldn't. Faith to me is a very important thing in our lives as long as we walk this earth. Because without it, walking this earth is the only thing you're going to do. You're not going to make it to heaven. You've got to have faith. It's defined as being sure of what we hope and for the convenience of what we cannot see. It's the foundation of everything we believe in, is the faith. And Enoch was taken up into heaven without dying. And as far as we know, he's still there. Let's see. And we know that Cain killed Abel because God was pleased with him. He was pleased with Abel, and that's why Cain killed him. He was jealous. He didn't have the faith he should have. He was jealous. By faith, Noah, being warned by God about things not yet seen, in reverence preparing an ark for the salvation of his household, by which he condemned the world and became an heir to the righteousness which is according to faith. Noah built the ark on faith alone. I can imagine there's a comedian, I wish I could think of his name, from years ago, I'm talking back in the 60s and 70s, and I heard a joke he was telling one time about Noah and the ark. And he said, Noah's out in his yard working one day, and all of a sudden a voice says, Noah. And Noah stands there looking all around, shrugs it off. All of a sudden the voice comes again and says, Noah. Noah looks up and says, yes, God. He said, I need you to build an ark. It needs to be, he gave him the measurements. He said, because I will make it rain for 40 days and 40 nights. And the comedian said, Noah looked up into the air and said, God, what is rain? They had not seen rain on this earth. It wasn't necessary. But God told him that, and he built it. He built the ark on his faith in God. By faith, by faith, when he was called, obeyed by going out to a place where he was to receive for an inheritance. And he left not knowing where he was going. By faith, he lived as a stranger in the land of promise, as in a foreign land, living in tents with Isaac and Jacob, fellow heirs of the same promise. For he was looking for the city which has foundations, whose architect and builder is God. By faith, even Sarah herself received ability to conceive even beyond the proper time of life, since she she considered him faithful who had promised. Therefore, even for one man, the one who was as good as dead, the one who was as good as dead, that were born descendants who were just as the stars of heaven in numbers. The innumerable, in other words, uncountable, gained grains of sand among the seashore. So that's what God promised Abraham, was descendants, even though Abraham was well over 100 years old, and so was his wife. And God told him that he would have more descendants than he could ever imagine if he would do what he was told by God. And Abraham did it.
If we're having a problem, use this one, hold that one, and use this one.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, slide that in there. I'm sorry.
All right, is that better? Test. Okay. Abraham obeyed God's call to leave his home and to go somewhere, not knowing where he was going. I would find that hard to do. How many people in here would find that hard to do? Maybe if God told me that, I wouldn't find it hard to do. It's if somebody else tells me that, I need you to get in your car and drive here. Why? You don't need to know. Just drive there. No. I'm not doing that. And my wife will tell you one thing that I'm a stickler for is if I have a destination in mind, don't ask me to stop, because I'm not going to stop. I have a destination in mind. I have a point where the trip ends, and that's where I'm going. I might stop twice along the way and go to the bathroom or grab a bite to eat, but I ain't stopping. Get the trip over with so you can enjoy what you're doing when you get there. Abraham lived in tents. So did his family. He was a foreigner in the promised land, is what they're saying. That's what the Bible says. He was looking for a heavenly city built by God, not a permanent earthly home. Sarah was barren and Abraham too old. We know that. And it brings up the same old question. How many ladies in here above the age of 35? Now, I didn't ask you to raise your hand, but how many ladies in here above the age of 35 would gladly have a child right now at your age? Anybody? No hands? Oh, come on. Imagine that. If my wife come up to me and told me tomorrow that she was pregnant, I don't know what. Man. Better talk to God, because I know a man who's my age. I just turned 67. This man is my age. As a matter of fact, I think he's a month younger than me. And let's see, right now his youngest child is probably 7 years old. 7 years old. So he had his last child when he was 60 years old. I can't believe that's just. Okay. All these died in faith without receiving the promise, but having seen and welcomed them from a distance, and having confessed that they were strangers and exiles on the earth. For those who say much things make it clear that they are seeking a country of their own. And indeed, if they have been thinking of that country which they left, they would have the opportunity to return. But as it is, they desired a better country, that is, a heavenly one. Therefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. The people who were the slaves in Egypt, when Moses freed them, got them free, they never received the whole promise, did they? I mean, this was, 1,000 years before Christ was born? Does that timeline sound right? From the Exodus to the birth of Christ was 1,000 years or better? 1,000 years or better. So those people, God promised them a home, didn't he? God promised them a home. But I don't think that God meant a new country of their own. I think God meant heaven. That's my opinion. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But the Jewish people did not receive the complete fulfillment of the promise. They lived as strangers in the land of Canaan rather than owning it entirely. However, they saw the promise from a distance, embraced them, and died trusting God. So those who didn't turn their back on God when they left Egypt, and as this thing said, they had the opportunity to turn around and go back if they wanted to, but they didn't want that. They wanted what God was promising them. And we know that when Moses went up on the mountain to get the laws, what did they start doing? They started worshiping golden idols, didn't they? And they turned their backs on God. So a lot of those people didn't see that promised land. They didn't make it at all. But those who followed God's laws and rules, I believe that, I think they're up there with God right now. They confessed they were strangers and exiled on the earth. This means they understood this world was not their permanent home, which shifted their focus toward the homeland, a heavenly spiritual home. By faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac. and the one who would receive the promise was offering up his only son. It was he whom it was said, through Isaac your descendants shall be named. He considered that God is able to raise people even from the dead, from which he also received him back. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau, even regarding things to come. By faith, Jacob, as he was dying, blessed each of his sons of Joseph and worshipped, leaning on the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph, when he was dying, made mention of the exodus of the sons of Israel and gave orders concerning his bones. So Abraham was also tested by being asked to sacrifice his son. We know that story, right? God told him to take his son with him and take a bundle of sticks and go up to a certain point for a sacrifice. And if I'm not mistaken, Abraham asked him, what kind of animal should I take? And he told him, don't. I'll provide you with something. So God provided him with something, didn't he? He said, here, your son. If you love me, sacrifice your son to me. That would be a hard thing to do. Even though our faith, I think even no matter how strong your faith is, I think that would be something hard to do. Think about that. Men and women, think about that. If God told you to go home and sacrifice your youngest child, plain and simple, to prove that you loved him, wouldn't that be hard to do? It would be a very hard thing to do. But Abraham trusted God. He knew that God could bring people back from the dead. Maybe that's what he was thinking. Well, if I do this, God will bring him back to me. But we know at the last moment, a lamb showed up, didn't it? And that's what God provided. In other words, it's kind of like God was telling him what the future is going to be like. A one and only son will be sacrificed for everybody. So, and what I read said that Abraham figuratively received Isaac back from the dead, demonstrating that his obedience was anchored in the belief that God is faithful to his word, even when it seems impossible, Isaac displayed faith by blessing his sons, Jacob and Esau, regarding further events and inheritance, trusting that God would fulfill his promise to their descendants. So, even while dying, he was still trying to tell his family that God's got this. He's got it covered. Keep your faith. He commanded that his bones be carried with them to the promised land, demonstrating his confidence in God's future promise over his temporary residence in Egypt. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hidden for 3 months by his parents because they saw he was a beautiful child, and they were not afraid of the king's edict. By faith, Moses, when he was grown up, refused to be called a son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to endure ill treatment with the people of God than to enjoy the temporary pleasures of sin, considering the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking to the reward. By faith, he left Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he preserved as though seeing him who is unseen. So Moses had a lot of faith, didn't he? I mean, think about that. One man, and all those Egyptians, and all the slaves that were, all the Jewish slaves, and God told him he was going to get those people out of there. And we know how he done it, with the plagues, and this is where the Passover came into. They had the Jewish people had the faith to don their door with the blood of a sacrificed animal. And when, I guess, the angel of death passed over, they were protected. Moses' parents defied the command of the king of Egypt. Moses refused his status as Pharaoh's daughter. I mean, he could have lived the rest of his life as an Egyptian if he wanted to. He had all the riches that were available back then, had a fancy place to live, fancy clothes and all that, but he knew that wasn't him. And God was talking to him. And that's one thing you need to remember too. Sin will cause you to lose your faith. You know what, I might try that. That ain't going to hurt me. I'll just try it one time. It ain't going to hurt me. That's a mistake a lot of people make, isn't it? Famous last words. I'll never forget when crack cocaine first hit the streets back a long time ago. I will never forget a certain basketball player, Len Baez. Anybody remember that name? Len Baez was a college basketball player. He was good, really good. And when it was time for the draft, he got first I forget what they call it, first round pick. He was the first one picked, and he was tickled to death. He was chosen to play professional basketball with the Chicago Bulls. And the night he received that information that he was going to be playing for the Chicago Bulls, his friends decided to celebrate. And they talked him into trying crack cocaine for the first time in his life. That was the last thing he ever done. He smoked it one time, died that night. You see what sin does? When somebody says, here, try this, it's good for you, it's good for you. You know? Now, that don't mean when your wife comes up to you and says, hey, take a taste of this, it's good for you. That don't mean that's going to hurt you. All right, now. But guard your faith. Don't let it be taken away from you. By faith, he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of the blood so that the destroyer of the firstborn would not touch them. By faith, they passed through the Red Sea as though dry land, and the Egyptians, when they attempted it, were drowned. Moses trusted God in everything. As I was saying a few minutes ago, with the blood on the doorpost. The lamb during the Passover, the blood protected them. The blood protected them. Think about that. That was long before Jesus Christ's blood protected us, wasn't it? This always brings me back to another subject. People that say that the Bible was just written by men and it's fake. Written on what, 3 different continents? By 40 different authors? Over 1,500 years? And 3 different languages? Think about that. How can the Bible follow the timeline and all the little quiet things in the Bible? Also, like for instance, the blood. The blood of the sacrificed lamb saved the Egyptian people's firstborn, didn't it? What did the blood of the sacrificed lamb do for people on earth? Saves us, right? I mean, there's no way that the Bible could be thought up by men. Not in that circumstances where it's written by so many different authors, so many different continents, over 1,500 years, and in 3 different languages, but it follows a perfect timeline. There's stuff in the Old Testament that points toward Jesus Christ. And the Old Testament is thousands and thousands and thousands of years old compared to the New Testament. But it all points to one thing. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell down after the Israelites had marched around them for 7 days. By faith, the prostitute Rahab did not perish along with those who were disobedient after she had welcomed the spies in peace. And what more shall I say? For time will fail me if I tell the Gideon, Barak, Samson, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this, Jephthah, Jephtah, Jephthah, okay, and David and Samuel and the prophets, who by faith conquered kingdoms, performed acts of righteousness, obtained promises, shut the mouths of lions, quenched the power of fire, escaped the edge of a sword, from weakness were made strong, because mighty in war put foreign enemies to flight. This kind of tells us how an active, obedient faith overcomes impossible odds and secures our victory in whatever we're going through. I always come back to this with my wife. I honestly think she's here today because of her faith and my faith. 2015, the doctor messed her medication up and her heart stopped. 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm doing CPR in the bedroom floor, calling 911. And here she is today. 2017, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, had to have surgery and all that crap. And you can imagine, I'm standing there in our living room and the phone rings, and she had her biopsy and the phone rings about a week later, and she says, yep, okay, well, we'll do what we got to do, and she hangs up the phone. And the next thing she tells me kind of floored me. Well, that was a call from the doctor, it's cancer. And I'm like, oh, wow. And her comment was, no big deal, it's in God's hands, he'll take care of it. And that's how she went through it. Never felt sorry for herself. She said, God's got it all, no matter what. So it also illustrates to us, as obedience to God's plan. Wait a minute, I'm sorry, I got 2 lines mixed up there. Excuse me. Let's go here. The people that they just mentioned, David and Samson, Gideon, Samuel, Barak, all of those, They were heroes to the Jewish people. They were very faithful men, and they didn't allow nobody to come in and do something stupid to the people. Think about that. I mean, think about what Samson done. And we know what King David done. They were heroes to those people. But the reason they were heroes is because they had the power of God behind them, didn't they? They were faithful men. They did what God told them to do. Women received back their dead by resurrection, and others were tortured, not accepting their release, so that they might obtain a better resurrection. And others experienced mocking and flogging and further chains and imprisonment. But they were stoned, they were sawn in two. They were tempted, they were put to death with the swords. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, being desolate, afflicted, tormented, people of whom the world was not worthy, wandering in the desert, on mountains, and sheltering in caves and holes in the ground. All these things, having gained approval through their faith, did not receive what was promised, because God had provided something better for us, so that part from us they would not be made perfect. Some people by faith receives miracles. And this right here was telling us that women were receiving their dead through resurrection. Some faced extreme problems. Prison, torture, being desolate, not having any food to eat, not having a roof over their head, because they trusted in the future. They were going to live ever how they could in whatever condition they lived in, whatever situation they were in. They were going to still keep their faith in God. And they just told us that the world was not worthy. The world didn't deserve those people because of their faith in God. Okay, this is what I was trying to get to earlier. None of the Old Testament heroes, as we said, they never saw the fulfillment of the ultimate promise, did they? Jesus Christ. They never saw that. But during their lives, they had faith in God, plain and simple, and they followed his rules. They worshiped him, they praised him. They were sinners just like us, but their faith was stronger than ours. I think that our faith can be that strong. You got to go at it, as Nick says, 100%. You got to believe in it. You got to believe in it. God's going to give you what you need in his own timeline, but you got to let him know. You got to let him know that you're still here, you're still thinking about him, you still love him, you still care for him, and you know he's going to take care of you. So that's all I've got for today. Thank you.